Hi guys, this is Chandrasekhar, and today I'm going to present to you guys about how to write a WCF service. So in this video we're going to focus only on writing the WCF service and then how to test our service using the test client. And in the other video, the next video, we're going to see how to consume that particular hosted WCF service into our client application, and how we are going to consume the service, and then we're going to use it in the client application. So that's how we're going to progress. So as I said, in this video we're going to concentrate only on developing and writing the service and testing it with the test client, which comes in Visual Studio 2010. So let's get started. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project, or first let's create a solution. I'm going to create a blank solution. So we'll go step by step so that you guys can understand how to create a WCF service more clearly rather using the templates directly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a solution name which is called as something my service solution. So I'm going to give this one, click OK. So once I created a blank solution, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the solution, add new project. So in the new project I'm going to select this WCF service, and then I'm going to add this WCF service library. So in the service library I'm going to give it like my service. So I'm going to click OK. So now what it's going to do is it's going to create a WCF service library template for us. So right now I'm not interested in these two files. I'm going to delete these two things, and we're going to do it step by step so that we can understand how to create a data contract or the operation contract. So before creating the data contract and operation contract, I would like to spend a couple of minutes on explaining that one. So what a data contract is, it tells that in what data your service is going to speak to the client, with what data type it's going to speak. Say for example we are going to add two numbers, say for and you're going to write a method where two numbers that you're going to receive from the client is of the data type int only. So in that case what you have to do is you have to in that case you don't need to register that contract in the data contract, that data type in the data contract. Say for example you have an add function called int, which consumes int a comma int b in its function. So int a comma int and int b does not need to be in the data contract because it is a primitive data type. So most of the primitive data types you don't need to declare it as a data contract, it's been understood. But if a user is defining his own data, say for example a class is a reference type, the case is entirely different for a reference type. So if you're going to have a class called as employee, as we're going to see in this example, in that case we have to declare our class as a data contract, which tells that, hey dude, anyone who is going to consume my service and who is going to avail a particular method in which I'm going to use a special reference type called as employee, then you need to know or learn about what an employee data type is. So in that case, how you can learn, how the client will know about that data type is only through the data contract. So data contract is like a handshake between the client and the service, stating that we guys going to speak with special data that is being signed between us. So that's what a data contract is. What is another thing is called as an operation contract. Operation contract, what it does is it's also another signed pact between client and the service, that I'm going to expose this particular service called add two numbers. If that's going to be the method, then I have to declare that method as a operation contract. Then once I expose that particular method as an operation contract, then the client can consume that operation contract, and he can know that and then he can know the abstract part of the method, like what data that he has to send or what data type will be returned by that particular method. So let's get started. We'll keep moving further, and the benefit of doing in this way is I'm getting these DLL that is being referred into my project, and also the app.config, so you don't need to add those things. So that's the benefit of doing it this way. So I'm going to add a new item called as a class file. So this class file is going to be my service. I'm going to click add, and once I add this particular class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish my reference type, which is a public class, and I'm going to create employee. So I'm going to create two properties, which is string name, employee name, and string emp ID. So very important thing is we are using a reference type, so we have to declare that one as data contract. So for the class name, you use data contract. So you have to do control dot. If you do that one, you would be able to get this particular list. Then all the members in the class, or the data, or a variable, class variables in a particular reference, is called as a data member. So you have to mention them with a property called as data member. Come here if you want. If you are not able to access this particular DLL, or it's not been loaded, then you have to click here, do control dot, okay, and same thing, data member. That's it. So I'm going to write the property. I'm going to tell you guys a shortcut, prop tab. You would be able to get this. So string, and the property that I'm going to give is emp name. That's it. And I'm going to give another property, which is string emp ID. So for the properties also, you have to give this annotation called as data member, and this one also data member. So after doing this one, I'm going to write an operation contract. So now we have written the data contract. The next one is going to be the operation contract. So for that, I'm going to write an interface. So this is how we're going to expose the service. So writing an interface called as public interface tab. You would be able to get this one. So it's going to be employee. So I'm going to do with string, let's say call this particular method called as employee. So this particular thing is going to say hi we'll just print this particular thing called oh sorry, this is just an implementation. So I have to first tell what method I'm going to expose it. So it's going to be employee, and what this method is going to do is, what data type that is going to use is employee data type that we had. And now to expose your service, what you have to do is you have to write operation contract. So once you have done, control dot, load the service model DLL. So once you have done, now the next one is going to be, this one has to be a service contract. Actually, this one has to be operation contract, and this one has to be service contract. That's how it is. And now we are done with the service contract. what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my business logic here in my service. So my service has to inherit this particular interface employee if you want to implement that particular thing. So now control dot implement iEmployees method, and here this is the place I'm going to do the implementation, where I'm going to return employee 0 more. So what I'm going to do is employee dot emp ID, and then I'm going to display his name, employee name. So it's going to print this particular thing, and then it's going to return it. That's it. So almost a matter. Doesn't like the space. Oh, return. I have to do string dot format. Maybe that might be the reason. Yeah, to format the string. And yeah, so we have written the particular service. The next step, what we're going to do is we're going to build and see whether is there any error. So build process, build succeed. Now the service is ready. Right now what we are going to do is we're going to configure the service in the app.config. That is, we're going to set through what protocol we're going to speak to the service. So the important configuration that we're going to make here is the endpoint configuration. So the first thing what we have to do is to change the service name, because we have deleted this particular file called service1. So we have replaced this one as my service. So this one is going to be my service, and that's the name of the service. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to keep this one a bit simple, but not really complicated like this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this one hi employee. Say this one is hi employee. So that's what I'm going to do. So let me keep everything in small case, safety. And the third thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the endpoint. So there are some of the things which are not needed, so I'm going to delete this default settings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this iService1 to iEmployee, if I'm not wrong. So let's go and check it. It's going to be iEmployee. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to call this service using 3 different protocols. So the first protocol, the endpoint, is nothing but has the 3 important attributes called as address. Address is the place where you want to go and contact. Binding is going to tell how you're going to travel to reach to this particular address. So say for example you have the address, and how you're going to reach that particular address, either by car or a bus or a train. It's something like that. The contract is nothing but if I go and reach that particular place, how am I going to speak with that person? So based on what data I'm going to speak to that person or to the service. So that's what the contract is all about. How am I going to speak? What language I'm going to speak? What data type I'm going to speak? That's it. So I'm going to use this particular configuration, and we're going to speak in different language in different address. Say for example this is called as WS. For WSHTTP binding, when you say the address is WS, automatically what happens is it goes to this particular address /WS folder. So that will become the address. And sorry for that. Let me pause the video and get, yeah, sorry for that disturbance. And what we're going to do is next we're going to configure the another binding called as basic HTTP binding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one as basic. And the third one, what we're going to do is net TCP binding. So before that, we have to change this one as net TCP HTTP binding. So the particular address for net TCP binding is a bit tricky. So what we have to do is net dot TCP / and it's going to be local host colon just the same address here. Replace this one, but I'm going to change the port for this one because it is a TCP port, so that we can keep this one as 731. Let it be different, so watch out for this one. So this one has to be different because it's going to be using the TCP port by default. So what I'm going to do is next is I'm going to do Control S, save this one. Everything is done right now. Now we're going to try to run this particular application. We'll first try to build it. Build succeeded. I'm going to hit F5. The moment I hit F5, what WCF service does is it's going to ping this particular address, base address, and it tries to get the corresponding services using the test client. Get the error. I don't know why. So say something wrong with the naming. Let me check out and come back to you guys. Welcome back. I was able to fix this one because I had some of the administration issues. So number one is net TCP binding gave this I just kept the same address. The second mistake I made was it was net TCP HTTP binding, which was a spelling mistake. So it should be net TCP binding. I didn't watch that one, so I was able to fix that one. And step 3, what I did was, like, even then I tried to run this one, but I was not able to host it. It was giving me error. Reason because I haven't enabled my net TCP port sharing and my net TCP.listener adapter service. It was not running, it was not started. So what I did was, like, I went to the properties and then changed this one it was disabled, and I changed this one to automatic. So once I changed that one to automatic and then right click, I started these two services. The moment I started these two services, both started running. So how to go to this particular tool? It's Windows R. It's going to be services.msc. Okay, when you type that one in the run, you would get the service window or service MMC. So after that, the third mistake what I did, and I want to show you this one. No, this is really important. After doing this one, still I was not able to do that one. Still I was not able to host it because my Visual Studio was not running in the administrator account. So what you have to do is you have to open your Visual Studio, right click and run as administrator. Only then, when you run the Visual Studio as an administrator, what happens is when you click run, you have that administration rights, the administrator rights, so that what happens is it dynamically allocates this particular port for this particular protocol. So I'm going to click F5. Now when I click F5, it goes to this particular address, gets the metadata, and launches the WCF test client. So once the WCF test client is being launched, what's going to happen is we're going to test the method with 3 different protocols. Let's go and see that one. Yeah, so now this one runs fine. So now what we're going to do is this is a particular one which is using the binding WS HTTP binding, and this particular thing, endpoint, is contacting the same method using basic HTTP binding with different language. Say this is going to be English, this is going to be French, French, and this is going to be Italian or something, some other language, or Hindi, whatever it might be. So hi employee using basic HTTP binding, and this same hi employee is going to be spoken using net TCP protocol. So let's run it. Double click on it, you would be able to see this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a value called sorry, this is employee ID, let's say 123, and this is going to be charge. Now we got the response saying that hi employee 123 charge. So it's going to be a combination of these two things. So we had this getters and setters here, so that's why it's cropping up. So you actually don't need it. If you're not really using it, then you can set the values through that one also. Next we're going to check it through basic HTTP binding. Same 123, let's say George. Click invoke button. It says the security warning, click OK. Doesn't matter, it says hi employee 123 George. Third thing, we're going to test it with net TCP binding. It's same 123 G charge. Invoke it, click OK. Same. So what happens is we have one method and we have three different endpoints. So which means when you have three different endpoints, means with one service you would be able to speak or contact with three different languages, in other words. So this is how we will test our service using the WCF test client. And what we have done in this video is we have created the service and we have tested whether it's working or not, and it's working fine. Hope that's it in this video. Hope you guys would have enjoyed it and would have been informative for you guys. See you in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.